So, okay. So we have to start from here. I am also recording this meeting. You must be seeing the notification on your screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So about the metamorphosis of Tornaria, as you can see, there are four diagrams placed on this slide from K to N. So the K is fully grown Tornaria larva, and the last one is the developing Melanoglossus worm. And you can compare these the diagram K with the N, and you can also see how the changes taking place in the intermediate stages of Tornaria larva during the development. So as you see that there are ciliary bands which are not there in the developing larva stage.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
so
Yes.
There were some technical issues, so I uh, turned myself mute. So the ciliary bands have gone in the adult worm, and it has elongated much, where the Tornaria larva was oval shaped. It is elongated, and there was no clear distinction of proboscis collar and trunk in the larval form, whereas there are some distinction. You can see the collar area, proboscis area, and the trunk as well, and you can see the gill pores which were not there in the larval form, and the buccal diverticulum, which is very important structure. It provides firmness to the coelom for digging purpose, and because earlier this was misunderstood as notochord, so this has also developed in the proboscis. And as you know that what is diverticulum is like an extension of the wall, body wall. So this is the extension of the coelomic wall, and it is appearing in the adult worm where it is absent. So these are the some changes taking place in the metamorphosis, and gradually the Tornaria larva is taking shape of the mature worm. And if we see the point wise changes in the metamorphosis, the larva swims freely, leads a planktonic life, and feeding on minute organisms. The size is reduced probably due to loss of water. Transparency, ciliary band, sensory cilia, and eye spots are lost. So first 2 points are related to habit and habitat, and then the second are related to changes taking place in the larval form. Then the body becomes differentiated into proboscis, collar, and trunk. So this happens in the Tornaria larva when it starts turning into the adult one by the appearance of two constrictions. So the proboscis, collar, and trunk regions are formed by two constrictions which take place in the Tornaria larva, and the trunk region is elongated because it has to accommodate gills as well as gonads. So this further differentiated into branchiogenital region. The hydropore, which is found in the dorsal side in the Tornaria larva, persists as proboscis spore, and the buccal diverticulum and gill slits appear as outgrowths of the alimentary canal. And the reproductive organs mark their presence. Probably they develop from mesoderm, and tongue bar grows. Tongue bar means this buccal diverticulum, and adhesive post-anal tail is formed, which helps in anchoring the young worm and later reabsorb. So it is temporary structure. It is not supported by any endoskeleton. It is temporary, which is formed for temporarily anchoring the young worm with the substratum. The animal now sinks to the bottom to lead a benthonic life as an adult. So it becomes tuberculous. It starts burrowing, making tubes, and then it starts living in these tubes. So this is all about the uh, larval forms of Balanoglossus. So we had started from how the gametes are liberated or expelled to the water where external fertilization takes place. Then what are the morphological features of sexes of Balanoglossus? They are not they do not show sexual dimorphism, but they are male and female. And I mean, they are hermaphroditic. The male and female gametes are I mean, they are not they do not show sexual dimorphism, but they are male and female, and they are recognized only when we cut open the animal and see the structure of the gonads. And we had studied about the Tornaria larva, how they float, how they swim, and how they use their telotroch and the other ciliary bands. Then we went through the developmental stages or embryogenesis, and we studied about the structure of the Tornaria larva and then the metamorphosis. So this is how we got to know that Tornaria larva is quite different from the adult worm, adult Balanoglossus, and it also showed different habit and habitat. And now coming to the second larval form of protochordates, which is the larval form of urochordates, and the larva is called tadpole larva. And why it is called tadpole larva? We must be remembering when we discussed about Tornaria larva. Tornaria means rotating wheels, like because they rotate their cilia on the ciliary band in that way, so that is why they got that name. So the tadpole, because these larvae look like a tadpole of the tadpole larva of the frogs, so that is why they got this name tadpole larva. And if you see that there is a head-like structure, then again a tail-like structure, so it also like a sperm. Okay. And there are many structures associated in the head region like adhesive papillae, eye spot, or you can say cerebral vesicle. Then pharynx is seen, so this is head region. Then uh, behind the head is the tail region, which is supported by notochord, and the entire body is also encircled within a tunic test. So you are seeing these structures. First one is the head region, then the tail region. So this is the natural, or you can say the way the larva is found in the natural habitat. This diagram shows that. This second diagram is the label diagram, which is providing more information about the structure of the tadpole larva of urochordates. And you can see the head has many structures. Okay, and because it has many structures, so we can say that this is more developed as compared to its adult, because when we see the structure of the adult, many of the structures are lost during the developmental process or developing process. And in the tail region, the notochord is there in the center. It is running from anterior end of the body to the posterior end, but mostly it is restricted only in the tail region. It does not extend up to the head. So it starts from the beginning of the tail, and it runs up to the tip of the tail. Then it is also supplied with nerve cord, and the nerve cord is, you can see, also coming up, coming to the head region, coming into the head region, where you can see the statocyst. Okay, it is a balancing organ. You must be remembering, or you must be knowing with your previous information that it is balancing organ. Then ocellus, it is photoreceptor, means the animal can detect the presence of light with the help of the ocellus. Then you can see the cerebral vesicle. So this is, you can say, kind of accumulation of nervous tissue, which is not brain as such, but because it is little bit more condensed, and you can see more accumulation of nervous tissue, so it is called cerebral vesicle. And it contains the statocyst and ocellus as well. You can see the branchial sac, that is pharynx, and it is perforated. These are called stigmata. These pores are called stigmata. And you can also see the atrial siphon, which is blocked right now. So that means the main body cavity uh, within the body is blocked here, so it is of no use for the larva. Although it will become functional when it attains the adulthood, but at this stage it is not functional. You can see the endostyle as well in the head region, and you must be remembering, you must be knowing, because I had perhaps I had discussed about the endostyle, that it is something that filters out the incoming water current, so it helps in feeding. Then you can see the adhesive papilla. So these adhesive papillae are used for anchoring with the substratum. So this is about the head region. Then there is a heart as well. Then intestine and stomach. So these structures are associated with the head region. They remain confined in the head region. Then the tail region has the notochord and nerve cord, and entire body is covered by tunic. So now coming to the fertilization, there is external fertilization because the animals are hermaphrodite and they show the protogyny. That means the female gametes mature uh, first, then the male gametes. So this is called protogyny. So this protogyny stops self-fertilization. So this is important for the animal. This is good for the animal because this is how the cross-fertilization occurs. Then let's see how the pre-larval development process starts. So first of all, the cleavage is holoblastic and complete, unequal and determinate. So that means the larval, the animal's eggs have little bit yolk present in the eggs. Then after three cell division, eight cells are produced and they are arranged in two tiers. There are two layers, as you can say. Eight cells are found on the uh, above tier, and the eight are found on the below tier, in the below tier. Then the fourth cleavage results into 16 cells, that is morula. Now the cells rearrange and takes a shape of blastula, which is called coeloblastula because it is a coelom, that is called blastocyst. So at the 64 stage, this coeloblastula is formed. Then gastrulation process starts by emboli, or you can say the invagination. It is a movement of blastomeres towards the blastocele, and this is how archenton is formed, and which opens to exterior through the blastopore. So there is no new knowledge in this slide because you already know we have discussed the developmental process of tornaria. So, what about the larval development? How larva develop from this 64 stage of the uh, embryonic development? So, the blastopore closes and develops a rudiment of tail. Okay, the embryo elongates and form a tailed larva. The presumptive notochordal cells get separated from roof of archenteron, occupy the central core of larval day. This is important because here I am saying that the presumptive notochord is given rise by the roof of the archenteron, and archenteron is endoderm in origin, whereas the notochordal is mesodermal origin. So that means first the uh, presumptive or the future mesoderm has to arise uh, from the archenteron wall. Then it has to give rise to the presumptive notochordal. So the archenteron produces presumptive mesoderm as solid bands and not as hollow coelomic sacs, which is visible, which is seen in Balanoglossus or Branchiostoma. So after 8 hours of fertilization, the chorions, means the eggs membrane, rupture, okay, and probably dissolved by an enzyme secreted by the inner follicle cells. So when the chorions rupture, the larva gets free and the fully formed larva hatches out to become free swimming. So this is how larva is formed. Now let's see how the larva is formed and then how the advanced features of the larva are degenerated. Okay, so what you see here is tadpole larva, which is having a head with associated structures, organs, and then there is a tail, which is also having the notochord at the center, and the body is surrounded by tunic uh, covering, okay, made of tunicin. And when you see this diagram, I will show from here. Okay, so at this stage, this is tadpole larva, and now the metamorphosis has started. So what is happening? The tail is degenerating right now. The tail, the notochord was present up to this level, but it is reducing now. So that means the tail has started reducing, or you can say there are some changes taking place in the larva, and these changes are called retrogressive because the larva was more advanced because it was having notochord and gill slits, okay, and dorsal tubular nerve cord and many other advanced features. We will be talking about them in the later slides, but these advanced characteristics are being lost, and these advanced organs are being absorbed by the body of the larva, and the larva is transforming, it is taking different shape. So this happens because of the molecular changes taking place in the body of the larva. So one of the scientists, I will be talking about him in the one of the slide. So he pointed out that there are some unique proteins formed at this stage when the retrogressive metamorphosis starts, and these proteins, special proteins, leads to the absorption of these advanced organs. And because of the presence of these proteins which were not present before the beginning of the metamorphosis. So here comes the molecular, uh, role of proteins in the reverse metamorphosis. Molecular importance or molecular intervention in the metamorphosis of the tadpole larva. And this is how the actively or freely moving and swimming larva becomes a stationary one. So after this slides, let's see what structures are seen in the tadpole larva. The ACDN larva is called the tadpole because of its resemblance with the small tadpole. Formation of tadpole larva takes about 10 to 12 hours after the egg is fertilized, and it is transparent, very minute, only few millimeter long, and it is highly motile, as you must have noticed in the previous slide that the larva was very active and wiggling rigorously. The entire body is covered by a thin tunic or test secreted by ectoderm and shows two distinct head or trunk. Here, remember that head and trunk are merged, so we can call it head or trunk and their associated organs and structures. And then second part is tail and their associated organs and structures. And coming to the habit and habitat of the tadpole larva, so the selection of a suitable habitat is very crucial for the uh, survival of the larva, survival of the tadpole larva. If it does not get suitable habitat, then because it's all kind of openings, atrial openings and all openings are closed, it cannot survive. Okay, so it has to find a suitable place, as the larva may not survive on any other habitat or may get suffocated by the bottom mud or detritus. So because of the detritus of mud, it may get suffocated. So suitable habitat, perfect habitat is required. Then just after hatching, the larva is photopositive and geo-negative. So it moves towards the light and it floats, it swims. It does not tend to settle on the bottom because it is geo negative, and it cannot feed because its mouth is still closed by test, as I told you that all sort of openings are closed. So that shows again that it has to complete the metamorphosis within a limited time, otherwise it will die. So after a short active free swimming existence lasting for 3 to 4 hours, the larva becomes geopositive, photonegative and sluggish. So it sinks to the bottom, attaches itself upside down to a suitable hard substratum by adhesive papillae, and undergoes rapid regeneration or retrogressive metamorphosis to attain adulthood. And in the previous semester, when we studied about non-chordates, so there was one larval form, Saculina, larva of Saculina. That larva was also advanced as compared to the adult non-chordate creature. So here comes the retrogressive metamorphosis in the life cycle of some non-chordates as well. So this is not really restricted to the in the life history of tadpole or euchordates. It is seen in other non-chordates as well, where the larva is more advanced as compared to the adult one. So what happens in retrogressive metamorphosis? It is unique metamorphosis, active free swimming, and advanced characteristics like axial notochord, dorsal neural tube, spatial sense organs, and post-anal tail are lost in this process. So that is why it is called retrogressive. Here in our society, some retrogressive changes are also taking place. So we have to see what is progressive and what are retrogressive. One should desist from these retrogressive changes because these are not good for us, because it is showing retrogressive because the adult lives in different habitat and it shows different habits. So the retrogressive metamorphosis is a boon for the animal, but it cannot be a boon for us if we tend to adopt or tend to incline towards the retrogressive changes taking place in our society. This is apart from our topic I was just talking about. So it becomes inert, sedentary, and simple adult with only a pharynx with stigmata and endostyle to indicate its chordate nature. So this type of metamorphosis, which shows retrogression or degeneration from larva to adult, is referred to as the retrogressive metamorphosis. It is probably due to the sedentary mode of life of the adult, as I rightly said. So similar strange phenomenon showing drastic changes also seen in the life cycle of Saculina, as I told you a little while ago. In contrast, the common type of metamorphosis in which a less developed larva changes into a more advanced adult is called the progressive metamorphosis, like we see in Banotus. In the society should be transformation, not retrogressive. We should not stick to our past. If one sticks to past, that means that person is living a dead life, because living in past means we are dead, we are not alive. We can take some cues, we can take some lessons from the past to modify our present. We can transform our present in a more vibrant manner, in a way in which the society lives in egalitarian form of society. So retrogressive metamorphosis involves two types of changes, some retrogressive changes and some progressive changes. So this is another interesting thing, that when the metamorphosis is retrogressive, how progressive changes are done, or why progressive changes are taking place in the larval body. So that means first we have to drop some characteristics, some we have to drop, I mean the larva has to drop some organs, some redundant organ which are not useful for the adult one. On the other hand, because the larva lives in different habitat, whereas the adult lives in different habitat, so the larva, the characteristics which are useful for the adult have to have more prominent, more developed as compared to the tadpole larva. So Mankate and Cowden in 1965 studied the molecular changes taking place during metamorphosis. I was telling you about this phenomenon, the molecular changes taking place and which are controlled by the special proteins appearing or developing or being synthesized in the larval body during the metamorphosis. In the when I was showing you this, the video in which the tail was being absorbed and the other advanced characteristics and the organs are being absorbed. So these things were happening in the body of the larva because of the molecular changes, because some special proteins were being secreted and these proteins led to absorption of the advanced characteristics. So now we know that this is fully grown uh, tadpole larva, which is having all the advanced characteristics. This is intermediate stage, okay, and then this one is the last stage in which the larva is almost has taken the shape of the adult uh, urochordates. So this is larva recently fixed, and this is older fixed stage. So first the larva is free swimming, it is free moving in the water in search of perfect substratum. And remember, this is the way by which the urochordates spread their species to a great extent, to far and large extent. And when it finds suitable substratum, it fixes its anterior head with the help of adhesive papillae, and then starts retrogressive metamorphosis. So here the tail is fully grown, where in the larval recently fixed head is started withdrawing its tail and associated structures, and some changes are also taking place. You can see these changes are very much visible. The prominent and the style, it is developing, it is taking perfect shape. Then there are stigmata which were not there, although the stigmata and the endostyle remains both in the larva as well as the adult, but it is found in the larger size as compared to the larva. And there are some other structures as well which are being modified. So the retrogressive changes, it involves regeneration. And what are the degenerating characteristics? Like long tail or larva with caudal fin shortens and finally disappears, partly absorbed or partly cast off. So this is how the tail is shed, or tail is lost. So the caudal muscles and nerve cord and notochord disappear as they break down and are consumed by phagocytes. So this is the way by which the cells are digested by the cells of the animal itself. So this is called phagocytes. And you must have seen the larva actively uh, moving its body in jerks, or you can say in uh, it was actively wiggling. So because of the presence of the muscles in the caudal region, it was happening. So then the adhesive papillae disappear completely. Then larval sense organs, ocelli and otocyst and sensory vesicle break down and disappear. And the anterior region between point of attachment, that which are called adhesive papillae, and the mouth shows rapid growth. And you must we must I mean, we had discussed in the one of the previous class of our practicals, in which the dorsal and ventral side and the anterior and posterior side were obliquely arranged in the adult urochordates. So why does this happen in the adult body? So this happens because the mouth shows rapid growth. Okay, so the anterior region between point of attachment and mouth shows rapid growth, while original dorsal side with atriopore stop growth. So this is lopsided growth of one part of the body, that that forms that kind of symmetry in the adult urochordates. This causes shifting of mouth through 90-degree, and therefore the final position of branchial and anterior aperture in the adult represents the original anterior and dorsal side of the larva. Now, what are the progressive changes take place in the uh, larval stage? So, when tail is lost, the trunk becomes pear-shaped and four larger ectodermal ampullae grow out of its four corners. So these firmly anchor the metamorphosing tadpole to substratum and also serve for respiration as the blood like fluid keeps circulating through them. Within a short period, two more smaller ectodermal ampullae appear dorsolaterally, and the adult neural gland and nerve ganglia formed by neural tube and trunk ganglia come to lie mid-dorsally between mouth and atriopore. So the trunk ganglion itself persists as visceral nerve in the adult as well, and the with absorption of its test covering mouth becomes functional, and feeding begins by incoming ciliary water current. So this is how the free swimming larva becomes stationary fixed adult uropods in which the atriopore opens, branchial aperture opens, and the mouth opens to exterior because the covering which were which covered these openings is lost now. So the pharynx greatly enlarges, develops blood vessels and stigmata, multiply rapidly, forming branchial sac. Then stomach enlarges, intestine elongates and gets curved, and liver develops. So this is how the animal has got the fully functional digestive system. Atrial cavity becomes more extensive that so as to accommodate all kind of organs within it. As I told you that atrial cavity is the outermost cavity in which other cavities or organs lie. Then circulatory system with heart and pericardium develops, and the gonads and gonadocs appear from larval mesodermal cells. Test and tunic spreads to cover entire animal, becomes thick, tough and vascular, and attaches the animal by forming a foot is necessary. So most of the part of the body, you can say the 60% of the part of the body is performing the function of the foot, and rest of the part of the body involved in other physiological activities. The foregoing changes mark the beginning of sedentary actively feeding adult life, which soon starts producing gametes. So now let's see the significance of ECD and tadpole larva. First of all, taxonomic significance, because we know if we do not study the ECD and tadpole larva, we cannot place the chordates under the phylum Chordata, because adult urochordates do not show the basic characteristics of the chordates, whereas the urochordate larval form show basic characteristics. Then phylogenetic significance, the recapitulation theory larva is considered a relic of the free-swimming ancestral vertebrate. However, because nowadays it is this theory is discarded, and dispersal is the third significance. I was telling you during this presentation that the larva shows active movement, so it remains active for 3-4 hours, so it can travel a long distance, or the distance which is permittable for the larva within 3-4 hour in order to search a suitable substratum. So this is how the species is dispersed to the other areas as well. Then embryological significance. So best example of mosaic, this is the best example of mosaic eggs with a well organized, pre-patterned and well differentiated ooplas and highly determinate type of development is observed in the tadpole larva. Moreover, ascidians are the only chordate exhibiting true retrogressive metamorphosis. The egg cortex is case of ascidian is site of morphogenetic pattern related to the polar, bilateral, and general organization of developing cells. Besides, the cleavage in ascidians tends to segregate cytoplasm territories in having a different biological, histochemical, and biochemical properties. So some unique properties are also seen, also observed during the tadpole larva formation as well as during the metamorphosis, retrogressive metamorphosis, which were not seen visible in the other metamorphosis. This is what I wanted to teach you in today's class, wanted to discuss with you in this class. If you have any query, your points are well taken.